So Charlize and KiKi. First, let me start with KiKi because our love affair of your work started back with Beale Street. And when I look at Tish and I look at now, they're two totally different characters. I mean, Tish was strong, but like in a mental way. Now this time you're physically strong and you're doing these moves. You're kicking Charlize's butt and she's kicking your butt and all this stuff. How is it different doing that performance? So I could see like a whole different performance out of them, but I could see the acting, in both of them.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, even though Niall is a much more physical character, she still has so much heart and depth to her that is still very relatable to, really any character that I decide to do. But, Tish had that as well. So now it's just working with the character who expresses that same strength and that same heart and love in a very physical way. So yeah, it was fun, but it definitely got my ass whipped for real a couple times.
And I know, Charlize, I heard you like really hurt your thumb, and I hope you're all healed up from that. But I gotta ask about well, it's a scene in there where they ask where now ask, are y'all good or bad? And one of the characters said it depends on what century. It reminds me of this NASCAR and the Confederate monuments coming down. Like, what do you think about this point in history where we're reevaluating what we are going to honor as good and what's going to be bad?
It's such an interesting and important question. I think our thinking behind putting that piece of dialogue in the movie was to say that the human condition is a complicated one, and to try and make it black and white and simplistic is not necessarily the answer in solving a lot of our problems. And I think for us, it was to get this idea across that yes, given the time and the place, we are all capable through specific circumstances to stand either on the right side of history or on the wrong side of history. And that's something that we have to embrace. The problem is when we don't acknowledge that and learn from it. And I think that's kind of where we're finding ourselves in right now. It's not a question of good, bad, evil, wrong. It's like, why can we not look at this and rectify what we now know is for sure the right side of history? These injustices are not something that, started yesterday. We're talking about hundreds of years here. And I think this is why this movie feels so timely right now. Like, why is it in our humanity that we cannot learn from these mistakes? I think that's something that we all struggle with, right?
Right. And speaking of hundreds of years, I mean, Andy is old. I mean, I'm not talking about you because me and you are 5 days apart, but your character is like centuries old and cranky, and what people would probably nickname today as a Karen. Not that she's doing that in a black and white sense, but a cranky old white woman in this sense. And I'm wondering, like, how do we build on? We've identified this thing, but now it's kind of like name calling. Like, how do people move past like, oh, you're a Karen, you're this, or whatever, and to get to a point where we can learn from each other and our actions and try to move forward? Because I mean, you're super interesting. You're African American and white at the same time, and I just wanted your perspective on that.
Listen, I think for me, the thing that you start with yourself, right? And I find that at moments that there's something about just being quiet and sitting back and saying, I don't know everything. And to believe that I don't have ignorance somewhere floating in my atmosphere would be incredibly egotistical. And especially in this moment, I want to say to all my white brothers and sisters out there, just be quiet for a second and just listen. Like, this is a time for us to learn, and that's what I'm trying to kind of do for myself right now.
I really love this series. I hope it's like continued on into a franchise, because I could just see how this is, how this comic book has a lot of more stories to tell. And I love our characters together. I want to see y'all on screen together more. So y'all keep on being safe out there, giving us these good performances, and y'all keep on doing it. We'll keep on watching.
You too. Take care.